Okay, here's our last video on parental investment. It's a pretty short one. We have one more trade-off to look at, if you will. So let's get to our PowerPoint. And here we are. Age at first reproduction. And so there's a trade-off between a trade-off to be made. Do you reproduce early or do you reproduce later? Reproducing early allows you more opportunities to reproduce over time if you're an heteroparous organism. Reproducing later might give you more time to get ready for reproduction and be more successful at it, right? Well, it turns out that primates have delayed maturity. They reproduce first very late, and they even have adolescent subfertility. Adolescents are not as fertile in primates. So we have this very slow, long lives. We have an unbelievably long, all primates mature very slowly compared to mammals of similar sizes. But humans are like off the charts practically. We have very long childhoods. We are also very long lived. We have long post reproductive lives as well. We think this long childhood allows for more brain growth, development, and learning. Lots and lots of learning, and this must have been selected for over time. This slower growth must have been selected for. Now, what that means is essentially reproduction is delayed, all right? Reproduction is delayed. Females reach menarche at somewhere in humans between 8 and 16 years of age. And on top of that, there's something called adolescent subfertility. So after you reach menarche, then you still may be 6 months to 3 years later before you can get pregnant. This is true of other primates as well. So chimpanzees have subfertility in adolescence also. Female chimps reach sexual maturation at age 8, but they typically don't conceive until age 14. That's a huge amount of time in which they're doing apparently a lot of copulating, 3,600 times before they conceive on average. So we have this kind of fertility peak in early adulthood. If we look at fertility versus age, we have this kind of bell curve where we have subfertility as adolescents, peak of fertility in our 20s, and then it drops again, right? The question is why? Why do we have such slow growth? And that's an interesting question itself, but why do we have this delayed first reproductive age? Why? What's the benefit? Has it been selected for over time? We think that it has. We think that this late maturation protects young females from reproducing too early. When young females reproduce, the risk of losing the young is high, much higher than with more mature females. Females that are young don't have the stockpile of resources that you need for an expensive pregnancy, right? And females that are young don't have the experience that you need to successfully raise young. And so we think that evolution has selected for a slow onset and a late onset of reproductive maturity because it's the most successful it's the most successful strategy for enhancing reproductive success in humans, at least. Okay? Better nourishment has totally changed menarche. Females are capable of conceiving at a much younger age. So historically, in hunter-gatherer societies, females typically didn't get pregnant until they were at least 19 years old. Today, females are ready to be pregnant. Females can get pregnant at age 12 or 13. We're simply plump enough to trigger ovulation earlier because we live in a fantastic habitat, if you will. But a 12 or 13-year-old shouldn't get pregnant because she's not ready She is simply not ready to bear and raise young. She may not even be fully grown and able to support the pregnancy that way, but also be ready and have learned and gained experience in order to raise young successfully. So kind of an interesting twist there. Over our evolutionary history, we really slowly developed sexual maturity much more slowly than we are today. And that's a big deal. It could have a big impact on what's happening in today's world. So conclusions. Parental investment is all about the trade-offs, right? And sometimes when we talk about parental investment, we use language like this. We say, well, these animals had a reproductive decision to make. They make the reproductive choice to delay a pregnancy or to reabsorb a pregnancy or to abandon a litter of young. And what do we really mean by that? Are they really making these intentional decisions? I have to my trade-off is I have to abandon these young so that I can reproduce later. No, that's not exactly what we mean when we talk about decisions, right? Over our evolutionary history, individuals who abandoned young, let's just say, under certain circumstances, were maybe more likely to survive and reproduce offspring than other individuals in the population. So then there was selection for a contingent commitment in those animals, in those species. So we're not really talking about an individual active decision to abandon young or to resorb a pregnancy or to delay breeding. We're talking about, over evolutionary history, the strategies that were selected for because they allowed organisms to have a higher rate of survival and reproductive success than others, right? Okay, that's the end of this lecture. Thanks.